You know the feeling. You stand there in the store, staring at 2 cartons of eggs, one white, one brown, and the brown ones cost more, so you reckon they must be better. You bring them home, fry a couple up, and there on the skillet, they go thin and spread out. The yolk sits low. The taste is nothing to write to your sister about, and you wonder if eggs just are not what they used to be. Then another morning, maybe from a plain, cheap carton nobody bragged about, a white egg stands up proud in the pan and cooks cleaner than the fancy ones ever did. A man sees that often enough and starts thinking the whole business is a guessing game. I will tell you plainly, it is not a guessing game. Most people are looking at the one part of the egg that tells them the least, and if you do not learn this one old, simple truth, you are about to give up on the best thing you will ever have, for want of something nobody taught you. My name is Elias Yoder. My people came over from the Palatinate in 1838, and we have lived and worked the same Lancaster County ground ever since. I was raised by folks who did not have money to spare on pretty stories. My grandfather judged an egg by what was in it, not by what color it wore to market. My mother could crack one with one hand into a crock and tell by the look of the white whether it was fit for cake, fit for frying, or better saved for boiling. My wife Esther still does the same thing at our table, and she is seldom wrong. So when I speak on eggs, I am not trying to sound clever. I am only handing along what stayed true in our family, because it worked. Now here is the reframe, and almost everyone has this backward. Brown eggs are not better because they are brown, and white eggs are not worse because they are white. Shell color tells you mostly about the breed of the hen, not the worth of the egg. That is the turn. That is the hinge on the whole door. A brown shell can cover a poor egg. A white shell can cover a fine one. The shell color is a coat, not a character. What changes the eating of the egg is freshness, feed, handling, storage, and the health of the hen. Once you understand that, you stop paying for a story and start choosing for the thing itself. That changes everything, because it frees you from guessing and teaches you what to watch with your own eyes. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book at eliasyoder.com. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Now let us walk this out in a plain way. The first step is to quit using shell color as your first test. Do not reach for brown because you think it means richer, healthier, fresher, or more country. Do not reach for white because you think it will cook lighter or cleaner. Reach first for the freshest, best-kept eggs you can find. That means you look at the carton date if it is there, the pack date if you know how to read it, the condition of the carton, and whether the eggs have plainly been handled with care. Why do I say that? Because time and handling change an egg in a real physical way, and shell color does not. As an egg sits, the white loosens, the yolk weakens, and the air pocket grows. That is why an old egg can look tired, no matter what color shell it had when it started. So if you want a better egg, buy for freshness and care. Buy the thing that matters. A careless man makes the first mistake right here. He says, "Well, brown eggs cost more, so the freshness must be better too." No, not always. Sometimes they cost more because the hens are larger and eat more feed, and sometimes because folks will pay extra for the brown shell story. I am not saying brown eggs are bad. I am saying price alone does not tell the truth, and shell color does not either. If you can buy directly from a farmer you trust, that often helps, because you can ask when the eggs were gathered and how the hens are kept. If you are buying from the store, then do not be shy about turning the carton and reading what is on it. A man who reads before he pays is not fussy. He is awake. The second step is to inspect the shell for soundness, not color. Open the carton gently and look at each egg. You want shells that are clean, uncracked, and not leaking. The reason is simple. The shell is the egg's first protection. Once it is cracked, the protection is broken, and you are taking on risk and loss for no good reason. People spend all their attention arguing brown against white, and then toss a cracked egg into the basket, because the shell looks rustic or farm-like. That is backwards. A sound white egg is better than a cracked brown one every day of the week, and if the shell is badly soiled or broken, do not talk yourself into keeping it because it seems thrifty. True thrift is keeping what is worth keeping. False thrift is risking a whole meal to save one poor egg. The third step is this. When you get home, crack the first egg into a bowl before you commit a whole pan, a whole batter, or a whole supper. That old step has saved more cakes, more puddings, and more breakfast skillets than most people know. Why do it? Because one bowl gives you the truth at once. A good fresh egg will usually show a yolk that stands up better and a white that holds together more instead of running all over like wash water. A wholesome egg should smell clean and mild. If it smells off, you do not debate with it. You throw it out. This bowl step matters because it lets your eyes and nose judge before you spoil the rest of the food. My mother never trusted a shell to make the argument on behalf of the inside, and she was right not to. Now, do not let impatience trip you here. Some people crack half a dozen straight into the mixing bowl because they are in a hurry. Then one bad egg ruins the whole thing, and they call that bad luck. It is not bad luck. It is just haste collecting its wages. Crack one at a time into a small bowl and then add it on. That extra few seconds buys certainty. It is one of those old kitchen habits that looks slow but saves time, ingredients, and disappointment. The fourth step is to understand what the yolk color and the white are telling you, and what they are not telling you. A darker yolk does not come from a brown shell. It comes mostly from what the hen has been eating. Hens on feed with more yellow corn, greens, or certain natural pigments may lay eggs with deeper colored yolks. That can be beautiful, and sometimes it goes along with a fine, rich diet, but it is still not the same thing as shell color. People mix these things together and think they have learned something, when all they have done is tie the wrong knot. If you want to judge the egg, pay more attention to the firmness of the white, the shape of the yolk, and the freshness of the smell, than to whether the shell was brown. The reason is that these signs tell you about age and condition, which matter in the kitchen. Shell color does not. There is another small sign the old folks noticed. If you crack an egg and see the little white cords that hold the yolk in place, do not be alarmed. That is not a flaw. Those cords are part of the egg. Often a more noticeable one means the egg is fresh. I mention that because too many people have thrown away perfectly good eggs for want of being told what they were seeing. And that is how needless waste happens. Not from lack of food, but from lack of teaching. The fifth step is to store eggs properly, because even a fine egg can be made poor by careless keeping. Put them in the refrigerator promptly. Keep them in the carton. Put them in the colder part of the refrigerator, not swinging in the door where the temperature goes up and down every time somebody reaches for the mustard. Why? Because temperature swings and long warm spells age eggs faster and can work against both safety and quality. The carton matters too, because it protects the shell, slows moisture loss, and keeps the eggs from taking on other odors. Eggs are humble things, but they are porous enough to pick up the company they keep. Leave them bare beside onions and leftovers long enough, and you may taste more than egg. Do not get careless, because you heard some fellow say his grandmother left eggs on the counter and lived to 93. Maybe she did. I am not arguing with his grandmother. I am telling you the safe way for today, and the safe way is to refrigerate them and keep them cold once cold. That is not fear speaking. That is simple respect for food. Old ways are not foolish risks. The old ways that lasted were careful ways. The sixth step is to match the age of the egg to the job. This is where a lot of kitchen disappointment begins. The freshest eggs are often best when you want them to hold a pretty shape, such as for frying or poaching, because the whites stay tighter and the yolk stands better. Slightly older but still sound eggs often do well in baking and are often easier to peel when hard-boiled. Why does that matter? Because people blame the shell color when the trouble was really the wrong egg for the task. A white egg that is fresh will fry beautifully. A brown egg that is a little older may still bake just fine. Once you learn to use each egg according to its condition, you stop expecting every egg to do every job equally, and your kitchen begins to make more sense. Now, I want to say something plain here. I will not promise you miracle eggs by next Tuesday if you only buy one shell color and avoid the other. A man who promises you a miracle by the calendar is selling something. What I can promise is more honest than that. If you choose eggs by freshness, soundness, storage, and source, you will understand why some eggs serve you better than others. Understanding is better than hype, because it keeps working after the salesman goes home. The seventh step, if you keep hens of your own, or buy from somebody local, is to ask about the hen before you brag on the egg. Ask what the birds are fed. Ask whether the nests are kept clean. Ask whether the birds are crowded hard or allowed to behave like chickens. Ask how often the eggs are gathered. The reason is not to be nosy. The reason is that hen care shows up in the egg more truly than shell color ever will. Feed affects the yolk color and can affect flavor. Clean nests and prompt gathering help keep shells cleaner and reduce trouble. Gentle handling means fewer hairline cracks and less loss. A healthy hen laying white eggs is no disappointment. A stressed hen laying brown eggs is no treasure just because the shell looks old-fashioned. If you keep your own flock, do not fall into vanity there either. Some folks get carried away boasting on shell color as if the birds were laying silver dollars. Better to mind fresh water, balanced feed, clean nesting boxes, and strong shells. Those things matter because they support the hen and protect the egg. The old folks knew that good stockmanship is mostly a chain of plain duties done on time. Miss enough of those duties, and no shell color in the world will rescue the result. Now let us speak about the warnings, because this is where many people spoil a good truth by overdoing it. The first warning is impatience. If you decide today that shell color does not matter, do not swing foolishly to the other side and buy the oldest, cheapest eggs you can find, just to prove a point. The point is not that white is better than brown. The point is that freshness and care come first. The second warning is overconfidence in appearances. A dark yolk may look handsome, but handsome is not the same as fresh, and fresh is not the same as safe. Crack and judge. The third warning is bad timing. Do not leave eggs out on the counter for hours because you forgot them after shopping. Do not buy a carton with broken eggs just because it is marked down. Do not store eggs in the refrigerator door and then wonder why they seem to lose quality sooner. Little carelessnesses pile up, and then folks blame the wrong thing. There is also the matter of the float test, and I want to speak carefully because people use that test like a court verdict when it is only a clue. If an egg floats high in water, it is older because the air cell inside has grown larger. That does not always mean it is spoiled, but it does mean you should not just shrug and crack it into supper as if nothing was said. Crack it into a separate bowl, look at it, smell it, and decide with your senses. The reason I say that is simple. Age and spoilage are not the same thing, and a man who confuses them either wastes good food or trusts bad food. Both errors come from not understanding the sign. Now here is the gentle enemy in this whole matter. Somebody profits when people think brown means better all by itself. Fancy packaging profits. Premium pricing profits. Pretty farm-style storytelling profits. I am not telling you a man schemed this in a back room. No one had to. It is worse than a conspiracy, because it is a system nobody had to coordinate. It simply pays better to sell a premium brown carton than to teach a man to judge an egg for himself for free. And once folks learn to shop with their own eyes, some of that shine comes off the shell color trick. Again, I am not angry at every farmer who sells brown eggs, and I am not accusing every store of dishonesty. Some brown eggs are excellent. Some white eggs are excellent. I am only saying, the marketplace is glad enough to let a misunderstanding keep earning money. Let me give you a few plain examples, because examples settle a thing in the mind. Say you are standing before two cartons. One carton holds brown eggs with a pretty picture of a red barn and a higher price. The other carton holds white eggs in a plain box. If you know nothing else, then you do not know enough yet to say which one is better. You must look deeper. If the brown carton is older, warmer, or more roughly handled, the shell color cannot save it. If the white carton is fresher and better kept, the plain shell does not diminish it one bit. That is not a fancy theory. That is just what happens inside an egg over time. Or say your neighbor brings you a dozen brown eggs from hens that scratch in the yard, and they are gathered that day. Those may indeed be wonderful eggs, but not because they are brown. They may be wonderful because the hens are healthy, the eggs are fresh, and your neighbor handled them right. If that same neighbor kept white egg layers in the same good fashion, those eggs could be just as fine. The old folks were not impressed by labels. They asked, whose hens? What feed? How fresh? How clean? How kept? Those questions still work, because truth does not go out of date. There is another mistake I see often. People say, these brown eggs must be richer because they feel more solid in the hand. Well, sometimes brown eggs are a bit larger on average, because the hens that lay them are larger birds, and larger birds eat more. That can help explain why brown eggs often cost more. But larger is not automatically better. A bigger egg is only a bigger egg. If you need a bigger egg for baking, then it serves that purpose. If you need a fresher egg for poaching, then freshness matters more than size. A man gets into trouble whenever he turns one trait into a whole sermon. And here is one more little thing worth knowing. If you crack a very fresh egg, and the white looks somewhat cloudy, do not assume something is wrong. That can happen in a fresh egg. People have thrown away good eggs because they expected every white to look the same. But eggs are not machine parts. They are food from living hens. There will be some natural variation. That is why you learn the signs that matter, and stop fretting over the signs that do not. I have also heard people say, brown shells are always harder shells. I would not build much on that. I have seen stout shells and delicate shells in both camps. Shell strength has more to do with the hen herself and how she is kept than with some magic lodged in the shell color. So again, inspect the shell you have in your hand instead of leaning on a general idea. The reason is plain enough. The egg on your stove tonight is the one that feeds you, not the theory in your head. Now, if you buy eggs from a roadside stand or from a friend down the road, there is a decent way to do it. Do not make a nuisance of yourself, but ask simple, honest questions. Ask when they were gathered. Ask whether the hens are laying steadily. Ask how the eggs are stored after gathering. Ask whether the flock has been under any strain from heat or crowding. You are not interrogating a man. You are trying to understand the food you are bringing into your house. Most good keepers will not resent that. In my experience, careful people are glad to talk with careful people. And if you are the one selling eggs, then be fair in your own mind. Do not lean too hard on shell color, because it helps the sale. Tell folks what truly matters. Tell them when the eggs were gathered. Tell them how the hens are fed. Tell them how to store the eggs once they get home. Teach them which